You're listening to Engage on Central Florida Public Media. I'm Sharon Stone. Coming up, a growing interest in urban farming, how Central Florida's youngest farmers are shaping the future of city agriculture and food insecurity. And life's a grind for busy moms. We meet the group of skateboarding mothers learning to skate, stumble, and support women. But first, you might have today off for the federal Juneteenth holiday that celebrates the end of slavery in America. It's observed on June 19th, the day slaves in Texas finally learned they were free in 1865. It's also called Emancipation Day or Black Independence Day. This year, commemoration events are happening under the backdrop of efforts to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has said many times that, in practice, DEI more accurately stands for discrimination, exclusion, and indoctrination.
The whole experiment with DEI is coming to an end in the state of Florida. We are eliminating the DEI programs. We are going to treat people as individuals. We're not going to treat people as members of groups.
Some cities in the U.S. are canceling celebrations to comply with anti-DEI efforts at the federal level. The pushback against DEI is also leading some organizations to scale back celebrations, dealing with reduced funding from hesitant corporate sponsors. The Black Health Commission in Orlando is in the process of organizing its 5th annual Black Joy Festival. The commission is pushing forward with its mission, even as companies rethink their involvement because of the changing DEI landscape. Janelle Dunn is the board chair for the Black Health Commission. Rebecca Desir is the founder and executive director of the commission. She also founded the Black Joy Festival. Dunn and Desir both joined Engage to talk about Juneteenth and the commission's annual festival. I start our conversation by asking Rebecca to describe Black Joy.
To us, it really grounds us in the work that we do at Black Health Commission. It really is the center of all of the work that we do. We really try our best to create spaces where people feel seen, where they feel heard, and they're connected with the resources and the services that they need to have a better health outcome.
And what inspired you to start the Black Joy Festival?
So it really started in the peak of the pandemic back in 2020, really when everything was shut down and trying to navigate a space where we all were stuck in the house, but also trying to navigate our health and well-being. And so once I got an okay with the city to identify a park, the idea came about to host an event called Black Joy, where we have food, we have vendors, we have all types of different things, but at the center of it all is really the health services and all of the things that were a gap in the Black diaspora. It was a great time, but it was purposeful.
So applications are open for vendors, and you're still interested in hearing from potential sponsors to partner with the Black Joy Festival. And this is happening in a time of attacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion, dismantling of DEI in Florida. What are you encountering as someone trying to organize a festival?
We are trying to navigate so much. At the same time, we're trying to lead this with integrity. We are part of the community, right? People that attend our events, they know that it is safe. It is going to be a place that they can find comfort, they can build community. And so we want to stay true to that, but also recognizing the external factors that are impacting the work that we're doing. And we're trying to be as diligent as possible, making sure that we have security on the ground, that we are connecting with the different resources to make sure that it's a safe space, but also making sure that we have the resources for those that are in need for food or whatever it may be. So reaching out to different folks to have those things in place. And of course, funding is always an issue, which is why I'm super, super grateful for those that continue to partner with us on the Black Joy Festival. And of course, our amazing board chair, Janelle, she's also not just part of the organization, but she's also a financial partner as well.
Janelle, did you feel like you were taking any kind of risk in this anti-DEI climate supporting the Black Joy Festival?
No, I believe that this is very much in line with our organization's mission. and vision. Our vision is healthy communities through life-changing care. And so everyone in our community should have access to healthcare. And healthcare is not just the medical space, the mental health space, which is so important and much needed. And so there are very unique opportunities inside of the Black Joy Festival for there to be stress relief tactics and strategies built in, like exercises. And that's what makes us unique. It's not just, okay, we're going to hang out and have a fair. This is an intentional partnership with the community to bring in resources and to drive the outcomes for our health. And so, no, I did not feel any hesitancy. I actually believe that this is exactly what we should be doing in this time.
Rebecca, do you agree with that sentiment that this is exactly what is needed in the community?
I agree, especially with those organizations that are pulling out or they're shying away from this space. I think it's super important for us to continue doing this work and really ground ourselves to make sure that our community has what they need to move forward. Because through it all, joy is resistance. It is a part of our well-being to make sure that, yes, we're acknowledging what's happening, but there is space for joy. There is space for us to center our well-being.
Have you felt pressure to tone down Black Joy?
To be honest, yes. There are some folks that have reached out of concern. I understand where they're coming from, suggesting that maybe we remove the word Black. But whether we keep Black Joy or it changes to Joy Festival, the fact remains that the organization's name is Black Health Commission. And so it's always going to be at the center of the work that we're doing to ensure that folks from the Black diaspora have what they need. Yeah, there has been some challenges, but we are standing strong in our beliefs and we are moving forward. And we're so grateful that we have partners who also believe in the mission and they're not just providing the financial support, but even engaging their employees to be volunteers day of.
Janelle, can I ask you more about some of those gaps in disparities in health and why they need to be addressed, what you're seeing?
So I work in the healthcare space, my full-time job. And what I can assure you is that there has been so many disappointments in healthcare as it pertains to our Black community, where unfortunately they really are still learning to trust the healthcare system. And I believe that the work that the Black Health Commission is doing is really allowing an opportunity to bridge the gap and to rebuild trust, which is extremely important. Especially, we saw it a lot, right, during COVID. I mean, they literally were people who felt that, I'm not quite certain about that COVID shot. And I actually had individuals from my own neighborhood in New Orleans, and they were of my mom's age. My mom is deceased. But they called me because they knew that I worked in healthcare and they knew that I advocated for, vaccination. And they said, Janelle, do you think I should get the shot? And I'm like, I do. I don't want anything to happen to you. And they stated, I'm going to go into the white neighborhood to get my shot. And I thought that was so disappointing and heartbreaking that they felt that the government or that the medical professionals in their community would not give them the same shot as somebody else. And that broke my heart. But still instilled that we have so much work to do to restore the trust that has been broken for generations.
I too work in healthcare, so I kind of see it from a professional standpoint, but being the founder and leading the organization in this space, it highlights what Janelle was saying. I mean, even personally, I've had bouts, I've had some disappointing moments as a patient trying to navigate the system, trying to get help, even though I work in healthcare. It's difficult to be able to navigate this system. And I remember when my dad, when he first had a heart attack when I was 16, and then 3 years later, he had a stroke. I remember having to be the one to navigate the system because my parents are both from Haiti and they didn't understand the system. And me as a young teenager, I'm also trying to figure it out. But I was the person that was advocating not just for my father, but for my family, for him to get the care that he needed. And I recognized that not only was there a cultural difference with the clinicians that we were communicating with, but there was also just this distrust that was happening with my father and him not wanting to adhere to the medication that they were trying to provide. So there was a lot of unlearning and relearning that I had to do as the eldest child in my family, trying to help navigate that space. And I realized how important it is not just to understand the resources in our community, but who is providing those resources? Do they look like me? Do they understand my culture? And how important it is for that to be at the forefront of the Black Joy Festival. And that's, I feel, is one of our strongest suits, is being able to bring folks who not only understand the system, but can also provide the information in a way that can resonate with folks from all different types of culture, because Black is not a monolith. There's so many different types of Black folks. There's Afro-Latina, Afro-Caribbean, Afro-American, so there's just so many different layers on how we can approach it. And I feel like we do such a intentional job of doing that at the festival and other events that we host.
The fifth annual Black Joy Festival is August 16th this year. Rebecca, we've been talking about some very serious issues and subjects here, but the Black Joy Festival is kind of fun too. Can you tell people what they can expect?
Yeah, it's such a great time. I like to call it, our version of a family reunion. As soon as you step on site, we welcome you. We invite you to the different activities that are happening. Thanks to our partners, we have a wellness zone. We have a chill zone because we know it's going to be hot, right? We also have, a mom zone. We have just all different types of zone where you find unique agendas and activities that can help connect you with different resources or even connect with folks that are providing those services. We also have a vendor marketplace where you can connect with small Black business owners.
As we were talking this week, there are Juneteenth observances and celebrations happening around Central Florida. I would like to ask you both, what does Juneteenth mean to you? I'll start with you, Rebecca.
Okay, well, since I am of Haitian descent, I actually had to learn about Juneteenth. As I got older, I didn't realize the meaning behind it. And it wasn't until maybe 3, 4 years prior to it becoming a federal holiday, I realized the meaning of it. And I started to do events with friends around Juneteenth. So way before it became a federal holiday, and realizing that, wow, this was the day that Black Texans learned that they were free. And that was 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. And to understand, trying to put myself in their shoes to navigate that, you were free for 2 years and no one told you, no one. So they were still working as slaves during that time. And it took a while for them to hear the news. And that's the reason why Juneteenth is a thing. It's really huge in Texas, but now over time it has become a national day of recognizing our liberation, our freedom, but also grounding ourselves in that celebration as well, which again goes back to that joy piece. Despite what is happening, there's always that space to be able to come together as a unit and to celebrate, even despite what is stacked against us. And that's what Juneteenth means to me. And I just want to make sure that that message is not lost with all of the Juneteenth events that are happening as well, to make sure that we ground ourselves in the historical context, that it's not just a holiday that some folks have off, but to recognize what it really means and how do we stay true to the meaning of the holiday.
Janelle, I'm just noticing that you're nodding in agreement.
When we think about the history of slavery in general, and the fact that human beings were treated as property, if we just really be honest, it's completely insulting, I guess, if you will. The fact that there were humans enslaved, and the fact that in the age of information now, right, you find out that something happened, and the minute it's social media viral, And it took 2 years for a group of individuals in one single state to realize that they were no longer considered property. So, Juneteenth is huge. I think that for it to now become nationally recognized is a win for our community, and an acknowledgement of treating someone as less than. I think for me, it really is a true symbol of independence in general, because now there was a level of equality that was starting to be achieved. And even though there was still segregation and, all of the other atrocities that continue to remain, we're just such a resilient people. Like, the beauty of our people, we will always make a way. You will never be able to break our joy. And I just feel like this is an entirely fitting event to be able to celebrate just how strong we are.
Janelle Dunn is the board chair for the Black Health Commission. Rebecca Desir is founder and executive director of the Black Health Commission and runs the BLK Joy Festival. Eatonville's Juneteenth weekend celebrations start today. The town is the first self-governing Black municipality in the U.S. Esteemed Learning, Inc., an Eatonville nonprofit founded by Candace Finley, helps organize the event. Finley is also part of the 1887 Juneteenth Committee in Eatonville. She joins Engage to discuss the impact of eliminating diversity, equity, and inclusion on her work this year. She explains Eatonville's connection to Juneteenth today.
We know that 1887 is the year that Eatonville became the oldest Black town in the municipality. We also have where Juneteenth is a celebration of, or the significance of, all African-American slaves being freed across the United States in total. The connection between the two, again, as Juneteenth set us all free, we know actually it was May 20th that it actually happened in Florida. And therefore, freedom from slavery in return, the motto of Eatonville is the town that freedom built. So what other place that will recognize Juneteenth and a Black historical town at the same time? Our motto is the town that freedom built. And as you see, you can see what freedom built every day for the past 100+ years.
That makes me want to ask you about this year's theme, honoring our history for a resilient future. Tell me what prompted that theme.
When we look back at slavery, and I say this many times, I look at my skin and I remember my ancestors being shipped over here from across the seas. I've heard stories of them being killed, beaten, jumping off the ship, not knowing how to swim. And there were over millions and millions and millions of African Americans who were enslaved and many who did not make it. However, in the midst of that trauma, I look at my skin and I see how resilient we are as a people, how resilient we are as what is thrown out at us, what battles are thrown at us, and that we can move forward. So we have to honor our history, not only to show that we can overcome this, but to remind us that we are resilient and how we need to act and be in our future.
Well, amid these political moves that challenge diversity, equity, and inclusion, how do you stay resilient today?
I think it comes to, there's like a saying that there's more than one way to skin a cat. When you talk about Esteem Learning, Inc., or the 1887 Juneteenth Committee, we are a STEAM-based nonprofit. We're also a minority-based nonprofit. I think it's just a matter of being able to prepare for funding woes, to prepare for multiple avenues of income when it comes. Like, for example, there are a few of my nonprofit counterparts that go strictly for federal funding, and they don't go through grassroots funding, or they have private investors and so forth. However, for example, my nonprofit, we don't have many governmental funds, nor do we seek for them, not because of this situation that's happening now, but a lot of the times they are controlled in a way that, hey, I give you money and this is what you got to go serve these particular people and this and that, versus allowing us to be the experts in the field where we look at the kids, we look at their passions, and in result, we turn and develop STEAM project-based learning opportunities based on their passions, so they can see in the end that what they love to do can make an impact in the world versus someone telling you, hey, we need, 10 million aviation engineers in the next 20 years. And we want to push you into it. This country is built on innovation, and that innovation is directly connected to the diversity.
I understand the distinction with how your nonprofit is funded. I'm wondering, regarding organizing the festival, did you encounter any obstacles or fear from businesses or potential sponsors who did not feel comfortable supporting Juneteenth celebrations with the DEI challenges?
We did have some people who were sponsors that came in immediately, when we sent them information as far as sponsorships. And this year, they didn't even respond. So it was clear that that may have been an issue, meaning that when the DEI stuff was in place, it forced the individuals who were not for DEI to do what they're supposed to do. So when those things were taken away, it was like, oh, I don't have to do that anymore. So that was the notion that I kind of got from some of the individuals or some of the organizations or companies that normally would fund us and support us. In so many words, I don't think they wanted to do it in the first place. However, the DEI policies and stuff were in place that made them have to do it. So it basically, in the positive light of it, in all of it, it revealed who really was for the community or the country or the culture as a whole versus who was just doing it just to get a tax write-off.
Dr. Finley, who do you want to attend these Eatonville Juneteenth celebrations, and what do you want them to take away?
I want them to take away a sense for a community who has thrived minus many challenges that we have gone through. And I hope that people who attend, I hope all people attend. But I think that what I would like the people to take away from it is to learn about the culture, learn about the history of Eatonville, but also take a pledge or take a sense of accountability to take an effort to learn more about the community, get a sense of love and a sense of accountability and a sense of impact. So as we're out here enjoying and as we are, celebrating freedom, I want people to know that you're in the town that freedom built due to our ancestors preparing and having a plan, having a focus on not just themselves, but the community as a collective. And I hope that that sense of pride and that sense of selflessness as we are enjoying ourselves out there, I hope people learn to love Eatonville just as much as we do. I hope that the community that comes out, I hope they see that there's nothing to fear with standing up for what is right.
Candace Finley is founder and executive director of Esteemed Learning, Inc. and part of the 1887 Juneteenth Committee in Eatonville. Let us know what Juneteenth means to you. Email us at engage@cfpublic.org or send us a talkback on the free Central Florida Public Media app, or you can text 833-793-9633. There's more ahead here on Engage. Do you ever stop and think about where your food really comes from? Urban farming is transforming the landscape in Central Florida. We see how it's cultivating change in the region's food system, starting with the youngest farmers. You are listening to Engage on Central Florida Public Media. You're listening to Engage on Central Florida Public Media. I'm Sharon Stone. The farming landscape isn't only rural anymore. Younger generations are digging into the world of metro area growers. Urban farming, as the name implies, involves growing and distributing food right in the heart of busy cities. It includes a variety of activities from balcony and backyard gardens to community plots or urban beekeeping. This summer, the Orlando Science Center is partnering with 4 Roots, a nonprofit that addresses food and nutrition needs, for a hands-on, immersive camp where kids can explore urban farming, conservation, and even inspire careers in agriculture. I visited the 4 Roots Farm campus last Tuesday while the campers, grades 3 through 5, were cultivating a passion for science and sustainability. I thought for sure I was driving to the wrong place. The directions I got were to take Princeton past Orange Blossom Trail to John Young Parkway in Orlando. How could there be a farm there? off those main roads 2 miles from downtown. But there it was, a 40-acre urban farm in the heart of Orlando's Packing District. There's open space in the fields, a food forest, box gardens, and a greenhouse. An education building houses lab space with solar panels on the roof and tanks on all 4 corners that collect thousands of gallons of rainwater. The campus is being developed in phases, as Brianna Rodarmel, Director of Programs at Four Roots Farm, explains.
Everything we see here today on the Four Roots Farm campus is part of Phase 1, which is our education phase. So we broke ground back in the fall of 21, and we have been pretty active here ever since with a number of different programs. Today we have summer camp going on in partnership with the Orlando Science Center. It's been in the works for a few years now, so we're really excited to be here and have these kids experience the farm and where their food comes from.
Why do you think it's important for kids to actually understand the garden-to-table process?
Yeah, we know that we're disconnected from our food these days. A lot of times children may have never been on a farm before, so to actually see that food growing from the ground, we tell a story of a student that we worked with in Orange County Public Schools, providing them with fresh produce, and it starts with mom and dad. So we provided a piece of broccoli to a student to take home to mom, and mom threw it away. And the teacher the next day said, "Hey, how did you enjoy your broccoli?" And, "Well, my mommy threw it away." "Oh, okay, well, here's some more. We encourage you to try it." And next day, "Hey, what happened? How was your broccoli last night?" "No, mommy threw it away again." Mommy didn't like that was grown in the dirt. And so it really is it's a generational problem. But what we're hoping to do is have students see and feel and touch and experience the farm and then be able to take it home and tell mom.
Jeff Stanford is VP of Marketing with the Orlando Science Center.
We were talking about children not knowing where their food comes from, and prior to the camp, you ask them where their food comes from, and they may say the grocery store. Yeah. They may say Uber Eats. Yeah. And so to have this understanding that food is grown and to empower them with that knowledge so they can go home and say, I'm growing vegetables, or I know where these carrots are coming from, or hey, let's go to the store and buy this produce and make food together rather than ordering out tonight. So, knowledge is power, and we do feel that these kids could literally start a transformation at home by coming home with these experiences and sharing them with their families.
The students also get to design 3D printed planters, build vertical gardens, and make their own mini greenhouse. I talked with one of the campers, Ella Tomasic, during a scavenger hunt outside where the kids were exploring the plots, gardens, and nature around them.
I like seeing the plants and all the bugs and being out and just enjoying the sunlight.
What's your favorite thing you've done activity?
I like the scavenger hunt and making the terrarium.
Would you ever think about maybe wanting to start gardening at home after doing this?
Oh yes, definitely.
Tell me about what some of the favorite foods are that you might want to grow.
Probably tomatoes and perhaps some of the bell peppers.
Why do you think it's important to learn about where your food's actually coming from? It's not just coming from the grocery store.
I think it's important because it raises awareness on how foods are being a little bit more processed these days, and how we should focus on being a little bit more eco-friendly.
What would you like other kids to understand about the importance of being eco-friendly?
Because I would like them to know that even in a city like Orlando, there still can be a big farm.
In one room of the education building on a campus, kids are doing a really hands-on activity. They're making energy bites by squeezing and rolling the ingredients together, combining sunflower butter and chia seeds, mixing in shaved carrots for some extra nutrients.
Let every bit of that butter, that sunflower butter, go into the oats and the carrots. Get in there!
It's a healthy snack to eat here or take home.
Yes! Use your hands! Use your fingers! This is the time when you can get really messy. Well, in the bowl at least.
The Orlando Science Center summer camp at Four Roots Farm campus just may inspire the next generation to cultivate a future in urban agriculture.
So there's a lot of fun pieces involved in farming, and I don't think that that's often thought about either, the number of STEM-based concepts that we have right here on the farm and in the dirt and in the soils that we see here. So to be able to connect what we're growing here on the farm to lessons in math and science, in technology. When we go to peek at our greenhouse, you'll see the number of innovations that we have here on the farm. To have students be able to experience that and see that farming's not just a pitchfork in a field anymore. There's a lot of cool technologies and innovations involved. If there's one thing that can spark that curiosity or that interest for that student to maybe take on to, in middle school and high school and be able to explore agriculture as a potential career, that's what we're hoping to do here, inspire.
And if I can join in on that, that was one of the things that excited us the most about the collaboration with Four Roots Farm in this camp is just like agriculture is more than just dirt and crops and produce. Science is more than engineering and physics and lab coats. And so this opportunity dispels misconceptions on both sides, and we can look at the impact of science on our lives, because we all eat. And here's how science is touching us. And then understanding the technology involved in farming today. I mean, how farmers are using drones, how farmers are using sensors, and just those innovations coming out. The vertical gardens, hydroponics, aquaponics. So just a really great opportunity to open young people's eyes about the impact of STEM on their lives, how they can use it, and also how really exciting agriculture is.
Jeff Stanford is VP of Marketing with the Orlando Science Center. Brianna Rodarmel is Director of Programs at Four Roots Farm. To discuss the benefits and challenges that come with urban agriculture in Central Florida, we're joined by Hannah Eason. She's an extension agent in Orange County for the University of Florida Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences. She's tracking a growing interest in urban farms, partially fueled by social media popularity. We discuss the changing food production landscape, the challenges urban farmers face, and which crops are best for our region. Eason starts by discussing the role of urban community agriculture in neighborhoods.
Being connected to food in general has value. We all eat multiple times a day, and given the bigger picture of our food system situation, it appears that there are opportunities for urban agriculture to fill in some of the spaces where we are urbanizing as a society. A lot of folks are moving to the city, and as that change is happening, folks are getting more disconnected from their food. And sometimes that is just their own awareness of food and where it comes from. But sometimes that is even a disconnect of what a fresh produce even tastes like or what farm practices are. So in that context, urban agriculture can harness local food opportunities where farmers are growing locally adapted crops or appropriate for their system, and they're typically going fresh to market. So they're able to provide something at peak freshness, flavor, and nutrition to their local community. And that is something that even in the busy city has a lot of advantages. People in the city eat too. And connecting that to a farm, since all of our food is coming from a farm, certainly has its place.
I was going to ask you, what are your concerns or what are some of the issues with people having that disconnect with where their food actually comes from?
Yes. Well, some of the issues with the disconnect with where their food comes from, food for a long time has been tied to values, personal values, spiritual values. So understanding how all of that relates, even financial values. And that's a beautiful thing. But being disconnected, folks sometimes lose that understanding of working with the land, even reading the land or understanding that there's a science to understanding the land. There's data even. And American kids can identify more corporate logos than they can plants in their surrounding landscape. And that's something that we should probably have on our radar as kind of that canary in the coal mine that says, hey, we need to make sure that kids in the city are still connected to where their food is coming from and not just the places that are typically serving it to them conveniently and affordably and safely.
I'm actually kind of wondering, specific to Orange County, Central Florida, what works well in terms of what can be grown here with our climate? Florida's pretty unique compared to other states.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Florida is a specialty crop state in general, and we are very agriculturally productive with our big farms, our medium size, and our small farms. And we are a specialty crop state. We actually produce the second highest value of vegetables in the entire country, and that is because they're valuable because we are the only place growing when everyone else is snowing. So we are selling high value produce across the country and sometimes world. And that understanding that we have the climate and farmers to grow specialty crops is really key to understanding Florida's landscape in general. So following these specialty crops, now when I say specialty crops, I'm talking about things like fresh market tomatoes, watermelons, sweet corn, snap beans, green beans, strawberries, a lot of our citrus. These are specialty crops that are typically consumed fresh. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, that's the stuff that makes our food the most delicious. Or maybe I'm biased as a Floridian, but these are our fresh crops that we typically eat fresh. And our urban farmers are tapping into that opportunity as well. But our big farms, they are primarily serving larger markets across the entire country. So sometimes, even though we know this is prime season for a certain crop in Florida, we're working on national markets. But we can still grow it here, and that creates a space and an opportunity for these smaller farms to go direct to consumer. These larger farms aren't typically going direct to consumer. They're working in a much grander scale of the food system. But here we have lots of residents. We have a lot of urban residents who seem very interested and fascinated in supporting the local food system and being able to enjoy lettuce that was harvested that morning and that evening is something that folks seem to desire.
You and I have been talking about some large trends, whether that be the environmental benefits, economic benefits, reducing waste. What would you say to an individual who's interested in the idea and the concept but doesn't even know where to start?
Well, for an individual, it's important for folks to think of their values, their lifestyles, and that reality. Preparing food and having just a little bit of having some skills in the kitchen really pairs well with truly enjoying local food grown on urban farms. But I think something that can relate on that individual level is peak freshness and flavor. When something is harvested fresh and when the farmer is selecting seeds and varieties that are very well adapted for their location and they're harvesting them at just the right time and then selling them to their local community, being able to enjoy broccolini that you've never at that peak flavor, there's just something really special about that. And when we eat things at peak freshness, that's typically when we have peak nutrition. There are a few exceptions to the rule, like actually when we warm tomatoes and make tomato paste, we can increase their nutritive benefits. But in general, consuming a lot of our produce at that peak freshness and flavor, we, the consumer, are extracting more vital nutrients from them in the form of delicious flavors.
is clear in talking to you that your passion is clear in our conversation. I'm wondering if there's anything you want to add, people need to take away from our conversation about urban agriculture that I didn't think to ask you.
Yeah, well, one other thing is from a community perspective and thinking about urban agriculture and local food is that more of the local food dollar stays in the local community. And that's where there can be more total benefits that come from urban farming or local food types of operations, because more of those allied industries will also be local, even if they have nothing to do with food and their business. But there's going to be the box people, there's going to be the label people, there will be other folks, even jobs and training opportunities within the local community. So when we think about capturing more percentage of every dollar that we spend in our local community, that becomes very powerful for us to maintain that level of resilience.
Hannah Eason is a University of Florida IFAS Extension Agent of Commercial Horticulture in Orange County. Let us know about other stories involving urban agriculture in Central Florida. What are you growing in your garden? Do you participate in a community garden as a grower or a buyer? You can email us at engage@cfpublic.org, or you can send us a talkback on the free Central Florida Public Media app, or text us 833-793-9633. Coming up, get ready to roll with UrMomSkates. You are listening to Engage on Central Florida Public Media. You're listening to Engage on Central Florida Public Media. I'm Sharon Stone. Few mom meetup groups are dedicated to ollies, kickflips, and rail grinds. But few are like UrMomSkates. Engage producer Richard Copeland visited the group in Orlando last night.
It's 6:45 on a Wednesday evening in the Audubon Park School parking lot, and the sun is still fairly high in the sky. On the paved lot, a group of moms are carving turns and working a ramp on skateboards. This is UrMomSkates, one of the unlikeliest meetup groups you can imagine. They formed last year when a group of moms got tired of watching their kids skateboard and wanted to try it themselves. I grew up in an era when moms instantly equated skateboarding with a trip to the emergency room, and street surfing was tacitly discouraged. I kind of thought that was a universal constant until I met Christina Brunell.
Last summer, a lot of our kids started skateboarding and started taking lessons. And I personally had just gotten a skateboard because I wanted to learn how to skateboard. And didn't have anybody to skate with, didn't know anybody else who skated as far as adults. And kind of like talked some other moms into learning with me. And then found it was kind of hard to like practice and learn with the kids around because, you know, they want your help and assistance. So I was like, why don't we start skating at night? Like, let's do a mom's night. And it kind of just went from there.
What started with 4 moms who never set foot on a skateboard before last year is now a weekly meetup of 15 women, cheekily called UrMomSkates. Brunell's husband is a skateboarder, and when her kids took it up, she saw an opportunity to challenge herself.
My husband has skateboarded most of his life. I've always wanted to learn, but was always too scared. And I don't know what happened last year, but I was like, I want to learn. Like, I want to skateboard for my birthday in May. And then just went for it, finally.
The motivation of this group is two-pronged. Most of the moms have kids who are enthusiastic skateboarders and see an opportunity to build on a family activity. But members are finding skateboarding therapeutic, as UrMomSkates member Laura Lee Morrow explains.
I think as you get older, because you're aging and your body's aging, your mind is aging. You're not trying as many. I think in general, and I don't speak for everyone, but at least for myself, you're not trying as many new things as you once were. And I never skated before, but I am athletically inclined, so I love sports and I love games, and So this was definitely a challenge for me, especially since I just turned 40 this year. And I was like, I can't break my body doing this, right? So I need to do it the right way. And so that's kind of where our trainer, Ashton, comes in. So every 2 to 3 weeks, we'll have an actual skate lesson. And they recommend that for anyone starting out, you do the lessons, because the first week, if you're learning how to skate, the first week is really when you have the most accidents, because you don't really know what you're doing, right? And you're probably not doing it safely. And it's given us a lot of confidence. And for me, it's just the consistency of coming out week after week and really building upon those skills. You know, it's like learning any new skill. It just, you're growing, you're learning. It's so good for you. And it's just been really meaningful for all of us, you know, and it's as much social as it is physical.
And what are your kids saying about this? When I was 7, my mother was taking disco lessons at the Y. What are your kids?
I would love to meet your mother. I love that. My kids are jealous that I'm here without them tonight. My daughter, June, who's 7, she just wants to do everything all the time. I mean, she wants to learn all the sports, and she's gotten really good at skating, which is really exciting. But I tell them, like, I'm going to this lesson so that I can be better at skating with them, so we can skate as a family. And so they get it, but they're very jealous that I'm doing this on my own without them.
The lessons these moms are learning transcend executing tricks. Lauren Eggert found that the strength and courage to skate came from her own son, traits she hopes to impart on him by example.
I actually really try to push Gray to take risks, because I feel like it's just going to make him a little bit stronger. When he got into it, all the kids were skating together, and I met Vanessa and her girls. And Gray was like, well, the other moms skate. Why can't you skate? And I was like, oh, no, I'm too old for that. I'm not doing that. And Erica, one of the other sort of founding members, she was like, you know, he can hear you say you can't do hard things. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went and bought a skateboard like the next day.
Luvi Monserrati Corrette also came to the group through her kids' interest in skating. She would gather with other moms at the skate parks while their kids were riding when she found motivation from her daughter.
I was like bringing popsicles and like sitting in the heat, and I was like, I want to learn how to do that. And I was like, no way am I going to be able to do that in my head. But I didn't want my daughter to hear me say that out loud. And so then I realized I had to like put my fears aside and learn something new. And then the feeling of community was 100% what kept me coming back every single time, because it wasn't about being cool. It was literally about being with other people that were like rooting you on big time. Every time I would unlock anything, even just an inch of something new, I was getting like cheered for. I'm like in most of the videos dancing for everybody.
Yes. And of course, there's the skate gear. Diane Levine's hot pink deck stood out against most of the boards.
I like pink, but I also like dark and scary things. So I like that combination with the pink and dark and scariness. So, you know, so I want it to be like pink and girly, but also kind of badass. And yeah, plus the shape was recommended by Ashton, our instructor. He said, you want an old school deck that's stable, that gives you a lot of, you know, comfort as you're riding around in the street. They gave me these big fat wheels so I could roll over acorns and clips and pencils and whatever you see in here. So yeah, it worked out really perfectly. But I am actually getting ready to level up to a park board, which will be narrower, lighter, harder wheels, so I can do tricks.
And as the sun set, I left the group still shredding in the parking lot and showing no signs of slowing down this late in the evening.
That was Engage producer Richard Copeland in Audubon Park. We'll have links to UrMomSkates Instagram page on our website, cfpublic.org/engage. Before we go, I want to take a minute and say thank you for engaging with us. Recently, we talked about the pitch gaining momentum to bring the Orlando Dreamers and Major League Baseball to Central Florida. Here's part of a comment we got in response from a listener. They write, contrary to the backer myths we hear every time a stadium comes up, they don't really draw in outside tourist dollars or create high-paying jobs, not counting a few dozen athletes and team execs. but rather shift local recreational spending around from other venues and local restaurants and shift low-paying service jobs from them to the stadium. We need to focus on spending our tax dollars on better schools, universities, public transit, hurricane resilience, and emergency services, not on bread and circuses for the wealthy that will do nothing to bring high-paying tech jobs to Orlando. Thank you for that comment. And we like hearing from you. You can email us at engage@cfpublic.org, or you can send a talkback on the free Central Florida Public Media app, or you can text us 833-793-9633. That is all for this week's edition of Engage. I'm Sharon Stone. Thank you for joining us. All Things Considered is coming up following NPR News.